Can we return to nature? The question presupposes that we are somehow alienated from nature. And technology certainly offers us a solution. It tells us that we can be one with nature in the medium of technology. It offers us to somehow recreate nature so that we are no longer vexed by the old problems that afflicted us when we had to confront nature. And nature really involves the problem of death. And danger is always bespeaking this problem. Right? So nature is dangerous, but nature is no longer dangerous as long as we can face it in the vehicle of technology. Now, technology, of course, carries alienation further, even to the extreme. The nature that it offers us, the communion, the return to nature that technology offers us, is a sham imitation of what was proposed earlier. Let us consider the early 20th century, the 19th century especially. We have the romantic return to nature. But the return to nature there, again, is in the element of a dream. Now, technology brings this to the extreme. The Romantics dreamed of a return to, well, what is prior to modern rationalism, which is to say, the origins or the foundations of modern reason. The passions, the lava underneath the machinery of modern rationalism. And what happens there? Well, they unleash Mr. Hyde, right? As in the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They unleash Mr. Hyde. And they realize, well, that doesn't work. Whether they realize that on their own or not is irrelevant. We have all realized it, that it doesn't work. So we need both Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So the two together are needed to establish a new world, what Shakespeare called Brave New World, referring to the world that the Machiavellian project involved, that Machiavelli had called for. But is there a different kind of return to nature, other than the romantic return, which is brought to extreme formulations and extreme, shall we say, experiments with our age, with the technological age that we live in? And Cicero, the Roman Cicero, exemplifies for us what the classical notion of a return to nature would involve. He writes in his book on old age, shall we say, "In hoc sumus sapientes, in this respect we are wise, quod naturam optimam ducem, tanquam Deum, sequimur eique paremus." In this we are wise. So our wisdom, if we are wise, consists in this, that we both, and this is what he says, sequimur eique paremus, we follow and we obey, pareo, nature as excellent guide, nature as just as a god. So nature, if nature is just as a god, then nature has a mind, is intelligent. It is not that it is endowed with functions, rules, parameters, a computer program coming from God, but that it is intelligent, that nature has intelligence, that it is alive in the most eminent sense. Natura optima DEUS. Excellent guide, just as a God. Now, Cicero is not speaking in the light of the Bible, so we cannot say that, look, there is this universal God of nature, right? The mind of nature, shall we say. Well, if there is a mind of nature, then modern rationalism has no reason to be. We can remain adherent to the ways of medieval rationalism, but that has been mocked by modern rationalism. Modern rationalism needed to mock medieval rationalism in order to obscure it. The mockery was not a rational argument. And the result of it is that, for us, is that we are abysmally ignorant of medieval rationalism. We have inherited caricatures of it, but we remain abysmally ignorant of it, in part because we have been alienated from the language of the medievals, most notably, most importantly, really, Latin. Medieval Latin, it was no good. It was still much better with respect to the classics than our own technical modern language. This is not a problem of mere grammar. It is a problem of an orientation of speech, a way of speaking. Yeah? And there is a poetic element to it that we have been alienated from. Modern man has tried to recreate poetry, of course, and the Romantics are a perfect example. But the poetry that was recreated, essentially, was a mere, imitation of earlier poetry. It was a firework, really, that is related to the whole 19th century preparation for, in most gruesome terms, for the Holocaust. That is to say, the explosion of the passions through the machinery of modern rationalism. There is no solid response to modern rationalism because the only alternative to it, the only alternative that we envisage for it, is the passions that break through it. And then, of course, we try to establish a synthesis, a brave new synthesis of the two. So, Cicero, in Oximus Sapientes, if there is a wisdom, a human wisdom, that consists of two things. Following, so it is wise to follow and to obey nature as a god. Is this a romantic project? Of course, we're just looking at a very short clip. Is this a romantic project or something other than that? And most briefly here, it is not a romantic project insofar as it does not involve a future-oriented movement. It involves a return to classical reflection. It does not involve the rise of a Cartesian ego, subjectivity, me, myself. Yeah? It speaks in the plural. In terms of communality, this is a common condition of man. We are masks of intelligence, an intelligence that is at work in nature. But what nature? Should we return to the state of a dog? No. But we should recognize the intelligence of nature in following it and in obeying to it. We do not accept here the mediation of technology, the mediation of modern reason, of modern rationalism, of its methods, methodologies, tricks, techniques. We seek nature not only as an end, but also as a means. Nature as leader, nature as guide, takes us on the way. Nature is not merely, therefore, certainly not merely fuel for our endeavors, a justification for our endeavors, but a way of life. That way of life is impossible to sustain if nature is not intelligent. If we do not acknowledge the intelligence of nature, the rationality of nature, then this is not possible. But if the rationality of nature is conceived, construed in technical terms, then this is not possible either. Then we end up with Galileo and others into brave new world where we have the mechanistic language of modern mathematics that obviously is alienated from our moral concerns, from our moral everyday life, good and evil. But if nature is intelligent as a God, then nature can guide us, not in dry mechanistic terms, but can guide us through good and evil. Well, these are problems that we are faced with today as we think about this return to nature, what it could mean, what it could entail. It would, to speak in Ciceronian terms, it would involve the letting go of modern assumptions, prejudices, certainties. The project of establishing a brave new world, that is gone. We give that up. It leads to hell on earth. The love of the Cartesian ego, subjectivity. I love myself. I love my body. All this nonsense. That we drop. It's narcissistic. It's egoism. Egoism, right? Egoistic. It's self-centered. Well, what about our just letting ourselves go in the stream of the passions of nature? Environmentalism of sorts. That falls too. There's no stream of nature. This is the mind of nature that we're speaking of with Cicero. Intelligence. We become reflective, attentive to the voice of nature. There's a voice that is a discourse, a logos that is underlying our own noise, what we produce. And what happens when we follow, sequimur equiparemus, when we follow and obey to nature as guide, we are filled with intelligence. Our mind is cleared, which is to say our selfishness is dissipated. We are filled with nature's intelligence. We partake in that divine intelligence. This is the classical return to nature.